how to build your network. All right, there's a couple of different ways. First of all, create your first tier by connecting with your colleagues, your previous workmates. Connect with your university or your college classmates. Connect with your customers and also your suppliers. Be very careful about your friends and family. Be strategic. They might have a very strong network which you can also tap into. But this is not a social site, so you're not on Facebook or on Twitter here. So if you're connecting with your friends and family, do it in the professional manner, and but also be reciprocal, and also make very sure that when you do have those connections that come up as a request, that you check out those profiles. You have a look and see if this is a real person. You look for those mutual connections to see how much you're actually within the same industry or within the same interest and field, and that's why you would connect with them. There are a certain amount of hackers that do take a dormant profile and then pretend to be that person, but there are things that trigger if that's going to happen. So you'll see there's usually no photo, or the headline doesn't match the experience. And so be careful of those connections. You do not have to connect with everybody, okay? So be selective. Now, to tap into your second tier, you would view the connections of your first contacts. If there are any that's within your industry or in your expertise area, or people that you know that you might need to connect with for your future career path, then you can connect directly. There are certain ways that if you connect directly, it will go automatically to them without any message. And again, the algorithm pops up randomly. So sometimes you can connect directly and it just gets sent off. The other one is where it will pop up with a list of how do you know this person? Do you know them through previous jobs or previous universities, which they call schools? Or do you have a direct contact with the person? Do you have their email address? Because the whole idea is you linking to somebody that you have a connection with. That's why your profile is so important, to have it completed before you start building your network, because you might have to tap into your previous jobs or your previous qualifications. And then you'll also see there's an option in which you can send a message to say why you're connecting. Now, if you're connecting completely at random, make sure that message comes through. So you would say then something like, I see that you're the expert in the F&C marketing field. I would like to connect with you, as I'd like to be able to ask you your expertise at some stage. The at some stage is a very good phrase to have, because that person has to decide whether they want to connect with you or not. If they feel pressured and they think that suddenly you want something out of them, then they will not connect, or they will ignore you. But if you put at some stage, it gives them a little bit of release of pressure to go, well, I don't have to engage right now, but let me connect. At some stage, we can have a conversation. Sometimes you'll find that very strong LinkedIn users are very eager to make that connection and chat with you straight away. So give them the reason why you want to talk to them. And then you'll see that the other option is that you can use the you may know option. So once you've connected with a few people based on those requests that come through, below that comes an option that says you may know this person. And you'll see that usually it's because you have mutual connections, or that it's because you've connected with somebody in a particular industry. Now you have a link to that industry, and that's why it pops up. So go through a few of those and see if there's anybody that's interesting that you would like to connect to. you could also ask one of your first contacts to recommend you to one of their contacts. It's a good way to create an introduction, okay? And it also sets the scene, and that person will then trust your first contact to make that connection. If you get asked to do that, reciprocate as well. But also check out whether that is the person that you would like to introduce them to. Your third tier is a little bit more difficult. You're going to see that you must have a connection through your company or through the education that you've completed, or you must have their email address, or you need a recommendation. If it's a third tier, you will need a recommendation through your first tier, who has that connection on there, which is your second tier, to that third tier. So again, wherever you ask for that recommendation, the whole chain will be able to see it. So whatever you write to your first contact, know that that third tier will be able to see it. The other way is to use your email contacts, but be careful. You know, if you just tick everything, it goes off and it sends out all of these random to the whole list, and there might be people on there that you don't want to connect with. So rather pick the email contacts that you want to connect with, and it flows from there. So it doesn't, you don't have to stop. Just make sure that you've got the key ones in place, and you'll be able to see, as soon as you have the key ones in place, the next set of connections will take place. When you're in your groups, that's also a very good place to connect with people, because they're in your industry or because they're in your interest field. And also it will be part of a trusted group, so make those connections. Then you'll see the companies that you follow. You'll be able to actually click on and tap into them and find out exactly where they are based, in which division they are. And again, if you want to follow up on advice or you want to collaborate, you connect with those people. Again, if you're looking for recruiters or the talent specialists, that's also a perfect place to go and find those connections. So that when you do send your CV to them, or you are making the application in your cover letter, then you don't have to write "Dear Ma'am" or "Sir." Here you'll be able to say "Dear Mrs. Jones," and you already have that personal connection. It also makes it easier to follow up on your application. So if you did need to follow up, a week or two later, you can phone the company and say, "May I speak to Mrs. Jones?" instead of just going, "Can I speak to the HR department?" You're more likely to get through if you have that personal name and contact. So again, that's why you rather want to tap into LinkedIn to find the specific people in those specific roles. To building your network. Let's have a look. So you've seen how to use your company and how to use your groups to make connections. You know how to use your first connections. But let's have a look at how else. So you'll see you get invitations. And you'll see that there's a mutual connection between 22 others. So I know that, yes, Carlos was on one of my groups. I would accept him without having to go and look at his profile. However, it also pops up with Carlos's connections, and if I didn't know any of them, or if I was interested, I would then also connect with them. When it comes here, you see here I have no mutual connections. It doesn't ring a bell on who this person or the name is, so I would go and look at their profile and go and see, why should I connect with them? And I see that they're a third connection, so it's already once removed. It makes me wonder, why are they connecting with me? I didn't get a notification of why they would like to connect with me. I would have a look at, is there anybody, and so far I don't see any reason. So I'd look at their education. They haven't studied at the USB, so there's no connection there. I see coaching, and yes, I work with coaches and I do understand coaches, so it might fall within my realm. But let's go and have a look at who else. So if people viewed this person, they would then also view these other people. So now I'd have a look and see, there's a couple of second connections, but again, no first connections. So in this case, I'm not sure why I should connect with this person. Which means two options. I can either ignore this person, which means it will take it off my list and they will not be able to try again at this stage, or I can leave them there, which you'll see I've got 11 invitations which I've left because some of them I'm not sure of the connection. And sometimes it means that later on they actually improve their profile, then I start seeing where the mutual connections are and whether it's actually worth my while connecting with them. So that, like I say, you don't have to connect to everybody. Pick and choose and be strategic. It also tells you here, you can invite your email contacts, okay? I'm not very fond of this method because some of these emails are out of date or I've already connected to people, so I just ignore that. But if you're starting out and you haven't got enough connections, then go and pick the ones that you really want to connect to. It also tells you people you may know. So again, I would look at who are these people, how are they connected to me. Yeah, I see there's a lot of mutual connections. I'd go and have a look and see if that person. But what bothers me already is there's no capitals in the first names. So makes me wonder about the profile. It also, if I have a look at this one, I'd go and have a look at the profile and see if this falls within my realm and within the industry, and then I could connect straight away. And so you go on and you find out, is there anybody else that maybe falls interesting, and this will all be based on who you currently connected with, who you've just recently connected with, and in your industry. Okay, so it's based on your profile. Now you can also have a look at, you can see who are all your connections, okay? And you can filter it. So you can search it by a particular, you can look at the first connections only. You can look at particular companies. So say I do want to look at my ABSA connections, okay? And I can look at an ABSA, and I can look, and I can pick then a few others, you see. So say, let's see what happens. So now I can see straight away, these are my 4 results in ABSA. So say I actually wanted to take my students for a company visit, and I would like to take them to ABSA. Here are at least 4 names that I can tap into and say, would you mind if I brought my students to come for a company visit based on this particular topic? So that's how you would use your contacts. Or it could be that I can connect with somebody and go, I see that you're the National Manager for Bank Collections. This is a topic that we're busy exploring at the moment. Would you mind giving us some of your expertise? You can also, in this case, contact one of them at least and find out if they know the HR person. And do they have the name for that HR person, and then you have that personal contact. So this is other ways of looking for more contacts. What you can also do, it gives you the location. So if you say you only want Johannesburg, okay, it'll again pick up, yep, should pick up, there we go, only those 2 in Johannesburg. And so you can filter and have a look and find people, so that you can manage what it looks like, okay? Or you can, let's see, we're looking specifically for jobs. It'll show you the connections that you have, first connections within those companies, okay? And those would be the companies probably at the moment who are offering jobs. So that's another way of going through that. If you were premium, you'd be able to see a little bit more and be able to see on the next